Ellie, Michael,
Here.
Luis, Marquez, Sally, no Harry, Sally Mason, Diana, Main, Landry. You were not in the lab, isn't it?
We didn't have that last week.
No, you were supposed to be there in the last lab. Dylan,
I'm in group A.
Dylan, Jacob, Jackson, Gabriel, Tierra, except Luis Marquez, everybody is here. Okay, so I'm going to start chapter 11 today, which you are all familiar with. Even in general chemistry 1, we have mentioned very briefly the different types of chemical bonding in chemistry, right? So what are the different types of chemical bondings? Number 1, ionic bonding. Ionic bond. Covalent bond. Coordinate bond. Metallic bond. Hydrogen bond. Van der Waals forces. These are the different types of chemical bonds we have to deal in chemistry. This topic is exclusively meant for the Van der Waals forces are very weak bond, very weak forces of attraction. Ionic bond is very strong. Covalent bond is very strong. Metallic bond is also very strong. Metallic bond is there in all metals, which we are not dealing with extensively. But the hydrogen bond and Van der Waals forces, they are definitely called intermolecular forces. Inter means what? Between two. Intra means within the molecule. For example, structure of DNA, protein structures. They are all intramolecular hydrogen within the molecule. So that's what we are going to talk. So now, the molecular structure of chemical species would determine what? The type and overall strength of the intermolecular forces. What are intermolecular forces? They are the attractive forces that exist between all molecules and atoms. You know the 3 states of matter, solids, liquids and gases, will be decided based on these intermolecular forces. Understand my point? So therefore, intermolecular forces are the forces that hold liquids and solids together. Say if you take liquid water, billions of H2O molecules are attached to one another through hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bond, so one H2O, another H2O, another H2O, billions of such molecules are holding on to one another, not by means of a strong bond, but very weak bond. In that particular case, hydrogen bond. Okay? So hydrogen bond can be considered as what? An intermolecular force. That is, the different physical states of matter can be explained on the basis of intermolecular forces. That's the take-home message. Okay? They're beating around the bush. I don't want to spend much time. So you can say here, gas, liquid. Actually, in the gaseous molecule, in the gas state, you know there are no intermolecular forces. Why? The molecules are very far off, just like you are sitting here, 6 feet apart. Correct? In all gaseous, in gas system, the molecules are not attached to one another at all. They are free. So no attractive forces. But in the liquids, yes, there is binding. In the solids, more binding. Okay? So therefore, definite means matter keeps its shape. Then placed in a, solids have different shapes. Liquids have no definite shape, but the shape of the liquid depends on the shape of the container. Similarly, gases also have no shape. The shape of the gases depends on what? The shape of the container, right? You read, this is not something which you don't understand. And if I draw your attention here, so the gases are extremely light. The density of all the gases is very, very low compared to solids and liquids, correct? So the gases have the densities of the order of what? 10 to the negative 4th, extremely small. So now I draw your attention to the density of water and ice. Ice is a solid, correct? So the density of ice is less than the density of liquid water. That is why when you throw ice into water, ice floats on water although it is a solid, correct? Why? Because the density is less than the liquid water. So that you can see here, ice has a density of 0.917, but water has what? Almost 1. That is why ice floats on water. So this is, you know all this in general chemistry 1, okay? And gases are highly compressible, isn't it? You can compress the gas by applying the pressure. You can see here. So in the gas, the molecules are widely spaced, and if you apply the pressure, then the molecules will come closer and closer. Okay? So that demonstrates that. And why? If you want to talk about the solids, there are two types. What are they? Crystalline solids and amorphous solids. In the case of crystalline solids, the particles, the molecules, the atoms, they have a regular arrangement of atoms. Well organized assembly of particles would give you crystalline solids. Disorderliness, that there is no regular arrangement of particles, they are amorphous solids. These things you have studied in general chemistry 1. Say this is a crystalline solid, you can see well organized assembly, here they are diffused. So you can see solid, liquid and gas. So I will just move on. Okay, now water. Water has a boiling point of 100 degrees Celsius, isn't it? 100 Celsius is enormous amount of energy. Why do you think water has so much boiling point? Because of hydrogen bonds. You understand my point? There are billions of hydrogen bonds holding on the water molecules to one another. That is why it appears as a liquid. So boiling means you are going to convert a liquid into gas, correct? So you have to rupture these bonds. You have to break up these bonds. To break up the bonds, you need more energy. And that is why the boiling point of water is very, very high. Understand? So the higher the normal boiling point of the liquid, why? The stronger the intermolecular attractive force. In the case of water, what is the specific intermolecular attractive force? Hydrogen bonding. I will tell you in a minute what is a hydrogen bond. Okay, now you can see, plus attracts minus and minus attracts plus, correct? In ionic bond, all ionic bonds will have ionic compounds have ionic bonds. What is an ionic bond? It is an attractive force between cations and anions. But here sometimes the molecule as a whole, a part of that molecule will become plus, a part of the molecule becomes minus. When you bring them together, it is attraction between two polar molecules, I would say. I mean, plus and minus. So that's what we are going to talk about. Large charge, stronger attraction. Longer distance, weaker attraction. Do you agree?
Yes.
So if the distance between the two is very narrow, then more attraction. If they are far off, less attraction. So especially the metals with a higher charge, say 1 plus, 1 minus, 2 plus, 2 minus, 4 plus, 4 minus. Which one will have stronger attraction? Larger positive, larger charge. they will have greater attraction. Intermolecular attractive forces are small relative to what? The real bonding forces. Intermolecular forces are weak compared to real bonding means ionic bond, covalent bond. Understand? Now, this is important. This is the first type of intermolecular force. This is called what? Dispersion forces. You have to make a note. How many types of intermolecular forces of attractions are there? Starting from this. So, it's a temporary polarity in the molecule due to unequal distribution of electrons. Unequal distribution of electrons will give you polarity, right? What is the polarity in a molecule? Say, for example, if you have HCl, so this is the Lewis structure for hydrogen chloride molecule. Chlorine has very high electronegativity, and because chlorine has higher electronegativity, they will be moved towards chlorine. Therefore, this becomes plus, and Cl becomes minus. This is unequal distribution of electrons. Understand my point? So, likewise, water, for example. So, unequal electron distribution leads to attractions called dispersion forces. Permanent polarity in the molecule due to their structure leads to attractive forces called, this is another type. First one is dispersion forces. Second one is what? Dipole attractions. The third one is what?
Hydrogen bonds.
Hydrogen bonding. Let me explain to you what is hydrogen bonding. Whenever hydrogen atom is attached to a highly electronegative atom like oxygen. These are all highly electronegative atoms. The elements in the periodic table on the extreme right side, they are highly electronegative, means they attract electrons tremendously. Understand my point? So whenever hydrogen atom is attached to a highly electronegative atom such as oxygen, and what are the other ones? When hydrogen is attached to an atom like nitrogen, an atom attached to what? Fluorine, an atom attached to sulfur. These are all highly electronegative atoms. Understand the point? So when a situation like this arises, do you know what happens? Because highly electronegative, they pull the electron, then they become positive charge, correct? They all become plus. Because the electrons are going towards that side. Are you following? So now hydrogen becomes special. How? This hydrogen atom itself attaches to another highly electronegative atom through this dash dash dash. Not necessarily when there is that oxygen, it need not be oxygen this. It could be any of them. Okay? When hydrogen atom is attached to a highly electronegative atom through a covalent bond, this is a covalent bond, then that hydrogen will have the special ability to attach itself into another highly electronegative atom, not through a covalent bond, but through a weak intermolecular force, which is indicated by what?
Dots.
Dots. And this dotted bond is called hydrogen bond. Okay? Say now, for example, water. Take water. So this is the structure of water, correct? Right? Now hydrogen is attached to oxygen, correct? So do you think this will have the ability to attach itself into another water molecule like this? Right? Because this H is bonded to O through a covalent bond, and then this itself to another oxygen atom, and this will attach itself to what? Another water molecule. So this kind of network goes in all the three dimensions. It becomes a huge network. So therefore, so this is one water molecule, this is another water molecule, another water molecule. All of them are holding on to one another using hydrogen bonds. So this is an intermolecular hydrogen bond. Inter means what? One water molecule, another one. They are different. So that's what these hydrogen bonds are. Okay, now look at this dispersion forces. This is a molecule. This is a molecule. These are neutrons and protons. This molecule, unequal distribution means the electrons are supposed to be on both sides, but now they are on one side. When these two dots are here, it becomes negative, correct? Another molecule, the same thing. So when this becomes negative part, that becomes positive part. Another molecule again negative, positive, negative part. If you bring them, the positive part of this attracts the negative part of that, and the positive attract it. This keeps on going. So this is just an attraction between. Say they are not true positive charges; they are residual positive and negative charge. Very weak positive, weak negative. And this is an example of what? What?
Dispersion forces.
London dispersion forces. And here you can see, I don't know why they have given this. So these are all organic molecules, okay? So you don't worry about them. This is important. If you take a molecule, a series of molecules, okay, based on their what? The molar mass. As the molecular mass increases, what happens to the boiling point?
It also increases.
Increases. You remember this. So the boiling point of these liquids, whether they are organic liquids or inorganic liquids, whatever they are, because of the intermolecular forces of attraction. So the boiling point, which is a physical property, increases with the increasing the molar mass of those molecules. Now look here. This is another example of dipole-dipole interaction. So this is plus minus. Do you think there will be attraction?
Yes.
And that is an example of what? Any molecule which has two poles. Any molecule which has a two poles means
Die.
that is dipole. One dipole molecule attracts another dipole molecule. So plus part of this attracts the negative part of that. A negative part of that attracts the positive part of that. And they are the examples of what? The positive end of a polar molecule is attracted to the negative end of its neighbor. That is polar. That is dipole-dipole interactions. And here, this is another example. How do you measure the polarity of a molecule, which I have done in organic general chemistry 1? What is polarity? The unequal distribution of electrons would make the molecule to become polar, correct? I gave just an example, HCl. Water is a polar molecule. Why? Water is, how do you think water is a polar molecule? So now this is hydrogen, this is oxygen, this is hydrogen, correct? Electronegativity of oxygen is very high compared to hydrogen, correct? Therefore, the polarity is going to be in this direction. So this becomes plus, that becomes minus, delta minus. Similarly, the polarity of this bond is going to be what? Delta minus, delta plus. You understand? So this is what is the net polarity? The net polarity is going to be this. Therefore, this is a polar molecule. Water is what? A polar compound. How do you measure how much polar it is? You can measure how heavy a molecule is. How do you find out that? By determining its density. Similar to that, by determining a quantity called the dipole moment. Dipole moment. The symbol is mu. The d by is the unit. One could measure the magnitude of the polarity by a quantity called dipole moment. If the dipole moment of a molecule is very low, then it is the least polar molecule. If the dipole moment value is very high, highly polar, okay? So the magnitude of the polarity can be measured just by determining what? Dipole moment, okay? So now, if you look at this here, as the dipole moment increases, this is propane, dimethyl ether, ethylene oxide, acetaldehyde, acetonitrile, they are all organic molecules. And look at them, the dipole moment value increases. As the dipole moment value increases, this is the boiling point. Do you think there is an increasing trend of the boiling point also?
Yes.
So that's what it is. So solubility. So solubility means when can you expect the solubility of a compound in a solvent? The solubility of a solvent in another solvent. For example, if you add a salt, a solid, table salt, into water, it dissolves, correct? Why do you think salt dissolves? Majority of the ion, sodium chloride, is an ionic compound, correct? It has an ionic compound. So sodium chloride, it has Na plus and what?
Cl minus.
Cl minus. And there is a polarity, correct? Now if you dissolve it in water, I would write to say 2 delta minus directly, okay? Plus this is polarity. So this is a polar molecule. Do you think this is also a polar? This is highly polar. Understand? A polar molecule can dissolve in a polar solvent. You understand my point? Like dissolves, like means a polar compound like table salt, many ionic salts can dissolve only in a polar solvent. If you throw table salt into oil, they don't dissolve, correct?
No.
Right? And that means like dissolves, like means a polar molecule dissolves in a polar solvent, a non-polar molecule dissolves in a non-polar solvent. Okay? See here, polar molecules dissolve in polar solvents, non-polar molecules dissolve in non-polar solvents. For example, if you throw table salt into benzene, which is a non-polar solvent, cyclohexane is a non-polar solvent, they will never dissolve. Okay? Here, look here, this Na plus should be attracted by that, and this should be attracted towards that. There should be an interaction between plus and minus, then only they dissolve. Okay? Solubility in water becomes a competition between the attraction of the polar groups, the polar groups of the water, and the attraction of the non-polar groups for their own kind. So now, pentane is a non-polar molecule. Water is a polar molecule. Do you expect a non-polar molecule to dissolve in a polar molecule, polar solvent?
No.
No. A polar dissolves only in another polar. A non-polar dissolves in only non-polar. That's what it is. And now when you mix these two, this is pentane, just like oil and water. Okay? If you mix oil and water, do they mix up?
No.
Whichever is lighter is on the top, whichever is heavier is at the bottom, correct? So look at this, pentane is lighter than water, therefore you will see only the top layer is pentane and the bottom layer is what? H2O means every molecule is water. So you go ahead and so carbon dioxide, this is a non-linear molecule, dipole moment is 0, and this is your methylene dichloride, this is polar, and that is CH4, and you can see here hydrogen bonding. When hydrogen bonds directly to fluorine, oxygen or nitrogen, I wrote sulfur, etc. The bonding atoms acquire relatively large partial charges, giving rise to strong dipole-dipole attraction between neighboring molecules. So look at this is the hydrogen bond. So here, that is positive, this O is negative, correct? So this is attractive, this is hydrogen bond. Understand my point? The dotted bond is the hydrogen bond. Look at this here. This is ethanol, ethyl alcohol. What is this?
Looks like you zoomed.
Oh. Anyway, look at this. This is water. This hydrogen is attached to oxygen, correct? Do you think this can attach to another oxygen?
Yes.
So what is this dotted bond called?
Hydrogen bond.
Hydrogen bond. Why? What happened? Huh? I don't understand this.
It may help if you double click with your mouse.
Huh?
Never mind. You got it.
Okay, now this is an example. So look, do you think all these molecules can have hydrogen bonds HF? Because H is attached to higher electronegativity. H2O, H is attached to oxygen. H is attached to nitrogen. And all those molecules will have the ability to form what? Hydrogen bonds. And now, if you look at this, the molar mass of this versus the boiling point. So, therefore, they have higher boiling points than would be expected from the general trends. For non-polar molecules such as hydrates of group 4, just forget, don't worry. Group 4 these elements. Group 4, okay? Can you see group 4? Hydrates, titanium hydrate, vanadium hydrate, that kind of a thing. So just don't worry about that. Okay, now this is very ion dipole interaction. This is exactly an ion dipole. Water as a dipole, plus minus. This is a true ion, cation. Interaction between an ion and a dipole. That's what it is. See, that is why sodium chloride dissolves in water. Why? The sodium ion interacts with water molecule. Here, these are dipole ion interaction, and because of this, sodium chloride dissolves in water. And if you look at the structure here, this is an octahedral environment. Octahedral, it is like this. If you take sodium, this is a parallelogram, correct? So if you put sodium ion here, this is water, this is H2O, and there is another H2O there. This is another H2O. So now if you connect them, that is what it is, okay? Okay? So each sodium ion is surrounded by how many water molecules? 6. You got me? Look at this. This sodium ion is surrounded by 6 water molecules. And each chloride ion is surrounded by what? 6 water molecules. And they are all due to what?
Hydrogen bonds. Or ion dipole.
Ion dipole interaction. Polarizability of electrons. Larger molecular mass, more electrons, larger electron cloud, increased polarizability, stronger attraction. More surface to surface contact, larger induced dipole and stronger attraction. So polar molecules, I have already explained to you. Hydrogen bonds, I have explained to you. There are 2 types of hydrogen bonds. How many types of hydrogen bonds?
2.
2 types. One is intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Another is what?
Intramolecular.
Intramolecular hydrogen bonding. The helical structure, the double helical structure of the protein or the DNA, RNA, twisting. That is the hydrogen bond within the same molecule, with the same molecule. Whereas if the hydrogen bond exists between two different molecules, they are inter and intra. So this is a summary actually. These are all intermolecular hydrogen bonding, molecular forces. This question, dipole, hydrogen bonding, ion dipole, and example. Understand my point? What is the surface tension? So have you anybody here studied physics? And do they teach surface tension in this? I don't think so. Because here physics means only the final equation. I have never seen anybody deriving the equations. When I studied physics, nothing just just like that. Every statement will have to be derived mathematical expression. Mathematically, we used to derive mathematically. But here they will give you just the final equation. Because the students will not be, the reason could be because they don't have enough mathematics background to understand, to digest that derivations. Okay. So surface tension means what are the types of forces that are attached to surface tension? They are all only for liquids, isn't it? Surface tension. The molecules, do you think the surface resists the molecules to move slowly, correct? They won't move. Especially if the compound is highly viscous. You just put water on one side, put oil, a drop of oil. Which one moves easily on the surface? Water moves easily compared to oil, right? Oil is very thick because the viscosity is very high. So let's talk about surface tension is the property of liquids that would result from the tendency of liquids to minimize their surface area. So look at this here. If you take this molecule is being controlled by 1, 2, 3, 4. Because of that, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Surface molecule interacts with only 4 neighbors. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? Interior molecules interacts with 6. So now you can hear on the surface, on the surface of the container, if you take a liquid in a container, surface molecules are the surface and molecule at the interior, at the center of the liquid. So at the center, how many molecules are attached to each molecule? 6. At the surface, how many? 4. Only 4. So the surface tension of a liquid is the energy required. This is the definition you have to remember. So the surface tension is nothing but what? It is the energy required to increase the surface area a given amount. Surface tension of water 72.8. So that is millijoules per meter square at room temperature. Benzene 28 because benzene goes just like that. Okay? It's very low surface tension. The stronger the intermolecular attractive forces, the higher the surface tension. You understand? Raising the temperature of a liquid, what do you expect if you raise the temperature? They begin to move faster, doesn't it? Right? The surface tension decreases with increasing temperature. Raising the temperature of a liquid would reduce its surface tension. Raising the temperature of the liquid increases what? If you increase the temperature, the molecules of that liquid will begin to move faster. When they move faster, what happens to their kinetic energy? Higher. Okay? The layer of molecules on the surface behaves differently than that on the interior because the cohesive forces on the surface molecules have a net pull into the liquid interior. Because always the molecules on the surface will have a tendency being pulled downward at the surface. Whereas interior, what? The surface layer acts like an elastic skin, allowing you to float a paper clip even though steel is denser than water. So this one, what is viscosity? It is the resistance of a liquid to flow. It resists. The units is poise. 1 poise equals 1 gram per centimeter times second, often given in centipoises. So H2O 1 Cp at room temperature. Larger intermolecular attractions, larger viscosity. So look here, N-pentane hexane Can obtain non-A, the molecular mass increases, the whatever the intermolecular forces also increases, and therefore the viscosity also increases. So there is a direct correlation between what? The molecular mass, the viscosity, okay, and the intermolecular forces. As the intermolecular forces increases, the viscosity also increases. The stronger the intermolecular attractive force, the higher the liquid's viscosity. The more spherical the molecular shape, the lower the viscosity. Molecules roll more easily, less surface to surface contact, lowers attraction. Raising the temperature of a liquid reduces its viscosity, correct? So if you heat it, then the viscosity goes down. If you cool it, then viscosity increases. Highly viscous liquids. So here you can see here with increasing temperature, the viscosity decreases from 1 to 0.2. So capillary action, if you draw blood, you take a capillary, and if it sucks, isn't it? Right? That is due to capillary action. Is the ability of a liquid to flow up a thin tube against the influence of gravity. So now if there is a blood sample here, and if you take a small capillary and if you put it, it sucks immediately, isn't it? Right? It comes up against the gravity. The liquid rises up the tube until the force of gravity counteracts the capillary action forces. Capillary action is the result of two forces working in conjunction, cohesive force and additive force. This is very important. So what are the two types of forces that would operate in the case of capillary action? Cohesive force and adhesive. Cohesive forces hold the liquid molecules together. Adhesive forces attract the outer liquid molecules to the tube surface. So if this is the tube, the molecules will have to touch the hard surface, right? That's what it is. Additive forces attract the outer liquid molecules to the tube surface. The additive forces pull the surface liquid up the side of the tube, and the cohesive forces pull at the interior. And that is why you have seen when you are measuring the level of the liquid in a measuring jar, I said the lower meniscus, correct? The lower meniscus. At the center of that lower, the molecules at the surface are being pulled downward. But at the surface, that is at the contact, additive force maximum at the surface, but at the center, cohesive forces are maximum. That is why the liquid takes the shape of what?
A U.
Like this. So now, that's what it is. The meniscus of water is concave, correct? Like a concave is this. This is concave, and that is what?
Convex.
The convex. So you can see there. If these high energy molecules are at the surface, they may have enough energy to overcome the attractive forces. Therefore, the larger the surface area, the faster the rate of evaporation. This will allow them to escape the liquid and become a gas. So this is higher the temperature, faster the rate of evaporation. The rate of evaporation increases with increasing temperature, correct? If you heat the temperature, all liquid goes just like that, evaporates. The rate of vaporization increases with increasing surface area. You make a note of these 3 points, okay? The rate of vaporization increases with decreasing strength of intermolecular forces. Yeah, if intermolecular forces become weak, then the molecules can easily evaporate, correct? If they are holding tightly, then the evaporation becomes less. Why? For example, take ethanol. If you boil ethanol becomes gas at 70 degrees Celsius. You understand the point? And whereas water, if you want to evaporate water, you have to go to 100 degrees Celsius. So now can you tell me this difference in terms of intermolecular forces? The intermolecular forces in the case of ethanol is very less. That's why it vaporizes very easily. The intermolecular forces in the case of water is more. That is why you need higher temperature for its evaporation. So larger the intermolecular forces, lesser the evaporation. You understand the point? and lesser the intermolecular forces, greater they are opposite. See, vaporization is an endothermic process. Of course, if you want to vaporize water, you have to spend energy, you have to heat it, correct? That means the system absorbs energy. Absorption of energy is called what? Endothermic. If the energy comes out, exothermic. So that vaporization is an endothermic process. Condensation is what?
Exothermic.
Is an exothermic process. We go ahead and read all this, okay? Evaporation and condensation. The amount of heat, energy required to vaporize 1 mole of a liquid is called what? Heat of vaporization. And this is also called enthalpy of vaporization. It is always endothermic. If you want to heat, if you want to convert a liquid into a gas, into a vapor, you have to spend energy, which is an endothermic process. Endothermic process enthalpy change is always plus. Understand? Endothermic is plus. The delta H wave means delta H is heat of vaporization. Heat is also called enthalpy. Enthalpy of vaporization is always positive for vaporization. It is somewhat temperature dependent. So now condensation is opposite of what? Vaporization. They are opposite. So go ahead and solve the problem. When two opposite processes reach the same rate so that there is no gain or loss of material, I know this, I explained the word what is dynamic equilibrium in the last chapter. Okay. This does not mean there are equal amounts of vapor and liquid. It means that they are changing by equal amounts. So a dynamic equilibrium can respond to changes in the conditions. When conditions change, the system shifts its position to relieve or reduce the effects of change. So what is vapor pressure? This is very important for your next chapter. So you remember, when you convert a liquid into a gas, you know all gases will have their own pressure, isn't it? The moment you say matter exists in the gas phase, all gases will exert their own pressure. Okay? So that you call what? All vapors, all gases will have their own pressure. Can you call that pressure like vapor pressure? Okay? Water also evaporates. Anything that evaporates into gas, they will have their own pressure, and they are called what? The vapor pressure. The weaker the attractive force, now if the intermolecular forces are very weak, pressure over pressure more, right? If the intermolecular forces are less, more evaporation, more the molecules in the gas phase, more pressure it is. So the weaker the attractive forces between the molecules, the more molecules will be in the vapor. Therefore, the weaker the attractive forces, the higher the vapor pressure. Higher the vapor pressure, the more volatile the liquid is. So now you can see this, the dynamic equilibrium. Initially, look at this. Initially, the rates of vaporization and condensation are equal, and the system is in this is in dynamic equilibrium. So up and down. This is condensation. This is evaporation. When the volume is increased, the rate of vaporization becomes faster, isn't it? Because more surface area, more vaporization, faster than the rate of condensation. So now when the volume is decreased, by applying the pressure, then what? The condensation, the rate of vaporization becomes lower than the rate of what? And that is how liquid steam becomes liquid water. Correct? So this is another increasing the temperature increases the number of molecules able to escape the liquid. This is increasing temperature. This is the vapor pressure. You can see with increase of temperature, the vapor pressure what?
Goes up, increases.
For water, vapor pressure increases. For all of them, there is an increasing trend, ascending order. With increase of pressure, okay, with increase of temperature, the vapor pressure of that liquid increases. So now, normal boiling point is time up or what? Okay, then I think I have only review. I will do it in the next class. Then we will move on to a very tough subject.